Hey Gator fans. Um, Big win yesterday for the boys in the orange and blue over Kentucky. And I don't think there's any more doubt. Florida is the best team in the SEC. This isn't just a fanatical opinion. This isn't just conjecture. This isn't me just going off of Gator fan bias. I think this is proven on the by the play on the court and the metrics behind it. We've talked about how deep Florida is from the front court, in the front court, and now the back court. The starting guards and the backup guards are now finding their rhythm, and they're now it seems like they've established their roles onto the team, and they're developing more confidence. Um, we've talked about the defense for the Gators, how tough it is, and how they make what are supposed to be electric offenses in this conference not play that well. I mean, how many times this year have the Gator defense forced opponents to play uh, to score less than their average throughout the conference play throughout conference play? Excuse me, I couldn't get my words together, but yeah, Florida is the best team in the SEC right now. They're 10-2, and they just completed what I thought was the toughest stretch of their schedule. If you go back to that video that I did, where I was forecasting the Gators finish to the season, I was thinking they finished the final 10 games right here. Here's the final 10 games: Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and then Kentucky. I figured they would finish with a 7-3 stretch down the a 7-3 stretch to finish the season. And I thought these first 4 games, Bama, A&M, Georgia, and Kentucky, I thought it was the toughest stretch of their conference schedule, and certainly of the final 10 games. And they just ran through this like a hot knife through butter, and it didn't even look that difficult. I mean, yeah, there were Alabama was a little bit back and forth in the first half, and Kentucky they clawed and fought their way through certain instances in the second half. But really, it didn't look competitive. I don't care if the score is only 92-83. If you watch the game, it felt like more than just a 9 point lead. Alabama got outclassed by Florida. Texas A&M got outclassed. Georgia was never in it to begin with. Both Kentucky, this Kentucky game yesterday, and Georgia beforehand, Florida did not trail for a single second in both of those games. Georgia and Kentucky, Florida did not trail. Florida did not trail, and they just made it look easy from tip off. So we're going to talk about this right here. When the Gators repeated as national champions during the Billy Donovan days, that's when they made the phrase "the Gator Boys are hot." You know, Al Horford, Joakim Noah, Torian Green, Corey Brewer, they made that phrase "the Gator Boys are hot." This team for 2026 right now, they're not just hot; they're a raging inferno. They are a raging inferno, and they are scorching everything in its path. And they're doing it with ease. Florida was, I guess, shell shocked by that loss to Auburn a few weeks back, because ever since then they have buzzsaw through their competition. Auburn, conversely, has plummeted. They've lost 4 straight. They lost to Arkansas yesterday, and it seemed like that victory got to their head, and they felt like they could just beat. I don't know what happened to Auburn after that Florida victory, but Florida has won 5 since that loss to Auburn, and in Auburn, excuse me, has lost 4 straight since their victory over Florida. That win for Auburn flipped pages for both teams in completely opposite directions. Excuse me for 1 second. Got to fix something here. That game flipped pages for both teams in opposite directions. So let's talk about Florida's win over Kentucky. It was the biggest game of the year, conference wise. You could argue, certainly, maybe not bigger than playing Duke on the road because it is Duke, but it was the biggest SEC game of the year for both teams. For Kentucky, since they were the visitors, we'll start with them. They were second place. They were only one game behind Florida before the game started. That is, Florida was 9-2. Kentucky was 8-3. They were coming off of an 8-1 stretch over 9 games. They won 8 games over 9, and they had dominated Florida in the past and have really given Todd Golden trouble. As much as Todd Golden has run roughshod over Nate Oates at Alabama, over Mike White at Georgia, and over Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Kentucky has been his thorn in the side. He was 1-4 against Kentucky heading into that game yesterday, and the Gators had not beaten Kentucky in the O-Dome since 2019. So it was practically like another home field advantage for Kentucky because they just kept winning there. Even last year, Florida's national championship team lost on the road at Kentucky. Excuse me, sorry. Or actually, no, Kentucky was in Gainesville for that game. So even with a national championship, they still couldn't beat Kentucky. And not only did you have those things riding upon this game, but to add more fuel to the fire, Denzel Aberdeen, who was on Florida's team last year when they won the title, was going to return to Gainesville for Kentucky as a Kentucky player. And obviously there was some emotions between him and the team, and obviously certainly from the fan base that felt like they were betrayed by him. But really, what do you expect? I mean, this is how it is now in college athletics, where teams are offering players better and ideals than what they currently have, so they're transferring it to get the money. That's just the way it is. I've always been in favor of college players being able to make money because I think it's very unfair that everybody else can get paid. Officials, coaches, universities, hotels, stadiums that host bowl games, everybody can get paid but the actual athletes themselves. I've never thought that was right. Maybe you can argue things have gone too far off the rails, but that's another topic for another video. So the game tipped off, and Xavier Lee took charge with his best shooting from the three-point range of the year. He made the first bucket of the game with a three-pointer. He did not waste time. He was almost automatic from the three, and he was spectacular yesterday. And he's gotten his confidence. He is not as passive and as apprehensive about shooting the ball as he was back in the beginning of the year. And when you have Urban Cloudjar, who's backing him up coming off the bench, and he's nailing threes at the way he has, it's making Xavier Lee's job easier than it's already becoming. They both combined for 41 points. They both made 7 field goals apiece. And Urban's three-pointers, to me, he's becoming like what I don't know if any of you are Heat fans, but if you are Heat fans and you remember the championships that they won with LeBron James and D. Wade and Chris Bosh in the Big Three era, Shane Battier and Mike Miller during those 2 championship years would always seem to hit the biggest threes when they needed it to help separate the gap between the Heat or the Heat from the Thunder or the Heat from the Spurs. And that's what I think Urban Cloudjar is doing. He's nailing three-pointers like he's going for layups. His confidence is good. He's not really great on the defensive side of the ball, but he's providing Florida that big shot maker, which is what they've been needing. He's not Walter Clayton. He's not going to be he's not a talented scorer like Walter Clayton was, but in terms of big shot making, he has become that clutch guy, which is what Florida's needed for quite a long time. And his shooting always gets good at the right moment, right when Florida needs it, where they're getting into a shooting slump or Kentucky's going into a run and they're closing the gap. He was right there when he needed it to slow all that down. Speaking of slowing things down, Ruben Chinilu and Alex Condon, they neutralized Kentucky's size for critical rebounds. They both posted up double-doubles. Ruben Chinilu continues to be the team, in my eyes, the front run for SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He's just dominating Florida. Dominating opponents for Florida at every turn. And Alex Condon is playing better and better and better and better and better. And that's just making Ruben Chinilu's job a lot harder. And when both of those guys are playing great, it's making Thomas Hogg's job a lot easier. And I think I might have messed up. I said harder instead of easier, but you guys know what I mean. It's making Thomas Hogg's job easier, and it's just a very fun time to watch these Gator guys play at the level that they're playing. And Aberdeen did have a good game. I'm not going to sit here and say that because he's playing for Kentucky that he sucked. No, he putting up a valiant effort. He put up 21 shots, so he was as aggressive as he could possibly be. playing against his former team. He wanted to really show out, but his offense kind of, got frustrated by the pressure that Florida was putting on him with Hogg and Lee and Flan, and how he in some occasions even the big men were rotating on to him, and they were making his shots difficult as well. So I think he got a taste of what it felt like having to play against those big guards instead of just practicing against those big guys instead of just practicing against them. He finally got to see what it was like to feel them in real game time action. So it was an all-around good performance by Florida. Ty Golden finally beats Kentucky at home. The Gators finally get to have a home season without a Kentucky loss, and they will see Kentucky again at the end of the regular season. And speaking of the end of the regular season, that's where we're going to get into in this video. So Florida's final 6 games, as I said earlier, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. Maybe not in that order. Yeah, in that order, excuse me. But half of these games right here are either teams that have 4 SEC wins or less, or it's a team that Florida has already played and beaten. In South Carolina's case, they've already done that. Florida beat them by 47 on the road, and now they get to come into the Stephen O'Connell Center in the O-Dome come Tuesday at 7 o'clock, I believe it was. So Florida's going to try to finish off with another season sweep of a SEC opponent. They already swept Georgia, so now they're going to try to sweep South Carolina, and Florida should have no problem sweeping South Carolina. They're really bad, and it looks like, with the way this conference has shaped out, I think Florida may potentially run the table in the regular season, just like they did last year after losing to Georgia. I think they could run the table and just clear out the rest of the conference, because right now they're about a game above everybody else. They play Arkansas. If you beat Arkansas, not only will you be now 2 games ahead of them, but you will have, pulling up the SEC standings here, you will have a head-to-head game advantage over everybody that's in the top 5. Arkansas beat them. Vanderbilt beat them. Tennessee beat them. Alabama beat them. And if you want to go to number 6, that's where Kentucky is, and you just beat them head-to-head. So you're talking about having a head-to-head advantage over 5 of the 6 teams that are right underneath you for race for the SEC standings. But you have to beat that Arkansas team because they're right behind you. So that right there I think should really clear you out and help you get that SEC regular season title, because after Arkansas, it's a bad Mississippi State team that you face and a Kentucky team that you've already beaten. And plus, you've already shown that you're capable of winning big games on the road. You did that with Vandy. You did that with Texas A&M. And you almost did it with Duke. So I don't think playing on the road should be that big of a problem for Florida. And plus, it's against a common opponent, Kentucky, who you play almost every single year. So it should be, I think Florida should win the SEC regular season title, and I think there's a good chance, and I think they will probably win the SEC tournament again. I think it's pretty safe to say that they have qualified for the SEC quarterfinals when the tournament comes around, and they're going to face whoever they get paired up with come tournament time. But all in all, good performance by the Gators. And I think they're the best team in the SEC, and they continue to prove me right. I think with the way that Florida is playing, we could be looking at maybe another number 1 seed, but I think it's more likely that Florida probably gets 2 or 3. I don't expect them to get number 4 or lower, or number 4 or 5. That's just impossible. But anyway, thank you for listening. Go Gators! And now our attention turns to South Carolina.